Hi, Will. Hi.
Good morning, Deeksha.
Hi, good evening. It's 8 p.m. here.
Right, right. You're 10 and a half hours ahead of
Yes,
us.
yes.
Mhm. I took note. I said I'm practically just getting up and she's getting ready for bed.
Yes. Actually, practically, I sleep pretty late. So I will not sleep for another, I think, 5, 6 hours.
I, I understand.
Yeah. So
Right.
good to be here. Hi.
Right. I appreciate you for joining me here.
It's an absolute honor and a pleasure. So I have a little, very tiny, teeny, tiny bit of cough. So please don't mind me.
Look, it's
Uh,
fine.
yeah,
Life
it's
life happens.
yes. Travel does that to me,
Mhm.
and especially with the kind of air quality we have here, it just gets very horrible at times.
Gotcha. So I'll give you the
Yeah.
I mean, if you need to clear yourself, go ahead. Handle your business.
Okay. All right. So, my name is Deeksha, and I've been living with type 1 diabetes for the last 25 years.
Welcome to the Chronically Well podcast, where we have real conversations with community that needs to be heard. On today's episode, we're going to take a tour around the globe and we're going to settle in India, where I get a chance and the honor to speak with Deeksha Dev. Deeksha, I know many people in India, a lot of people who were your friends with also. And just recently, I took a small dive into your Instagram and I saw all of the work that you have been doing to uplift the nation of India, to share with everyone your truths of living with diabetes and how that they can equally be at their best, which is we know our best living with diabetes is an independent thing. So I truly, again, I appreciate you for joining me here on this journey. Deeksha, could you please give our audience a summary of who you are?
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Will. It's an honor to be here. Um, my name is Deeksha, and I've been living with type 1 diabetes for the last 25 years. I've actually entered the 25th year of my journey with type 1 diabetes. And I am a psychologist. I'm a trained psychologist. I primarily work with people living with diabetes, especially when it comes to caregivers and people who are undergoing a lot of distress and burnout because of the condition. Um, my entire focus, I have been in the advocacy circle for last 5 years. I worked with an organization which is particularly worked with type 1 diabetes. But now I this year I started something of my own, which is called Align Your Wellness Foundation, which will solely focus on mental health and diabetes as a plug-in for all the organizations in the world who are working with type 1 diabetes. I love to eat sweets, just like rest of the type ones. And I did not want to be a psychologist. That was never the first line of profession that I wanted to choose. I wanted to be somebody who makes sweets. So in India, we call it a halwai. Um, but I think life had a different course for me, and I'm a psychologist now, and I help people to ensure that their well-being is taken care of wherever they need.
And we need you. um, Mental health is my heart, my passion. Um, just helping people understand mental health first, because in a lot of cultures, Black, brown cultures, it's something that is not shown. It's something that is hindered, something that many people hide. And I'm glad that I get to speak with you here because you get to do a deeper dive into what it means. Because I know, being a mental health therapist, that physically, you cannot be at your best.
Yep.
We have to work on both our mental and physical health and well-being together as a whole so that
Yes,
we can be. You know,
absolutely.
what got you into wanting to work in that mental health field?
um, so I think I never wanted to be a therapist. Actually, the first line of profession that I wanted to choose was architecture because my mom wanted to be one and she couldn't. But my brother kind of saw something in me and he pushed me into psychology. It just got very interesting. I remember a very vivid nuance where he just told me, he's like, you're very good at listening to people and offering them a direction. And I was in 10th grade at that point of time. I honestly felt he was but I think I now understand what he spoke about. I did my bachelor's and then my master's. And the one very particular thing that actually changed my trajectory of how I look at mental health was when I interned at the same place where I was diagnosed. So, the same hospital that I was diagnosed. And I was working there for almost a year. I wanted to work with them for 6 months, but the kind of work that I was having there, it just pushed me to just, go a little more further, just work a little more with them. And I ended up in the same room with a newly diagnosed type 1 and his parents, counseling them about how it is, how would you live your life with a chronic condition. And that's when life came to a full circle. That was the time when I realized that no, this is the direction that I need to take into, especially when it comes to giving back to the community, giving back to my people who are living with type 1 diabetes.
Yes. It sounds like everyone knew Deeksha, you're like this is the position for you because
Yeah.
your heart is so full and warm and you're able to gift that to others. And being a person that lives with type 1 diabetes, we know that it takes a lot more, but at the same time, we are already like gifted that love, that support, that guidance is within us. We know that we need those things. So we're able to share them with other people because if we didn't have them, it like
Exactly.
you said boy, but I'm gonna say it would be a show. Like, right, right. How old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was 4 years old. I
Four
was
years.
diagnosed, yeah, so I was diagnosed in 2000. Um, so I just completed 24 years of living with type 1 diabetes on 14th of November, which is also World Diabetes Day.
Wow.
Uh, and so I always, whenever I think of it in retrospect, I think it was meant to be type 1 diabetes in me
You
because
were
that's how my life is kind of, fit into puzzle pieces that, oh, this is happening. You're meeting a newly diagnosed child in the same room. It sounds very movie-ish. And then getting diagnosed on 14th of November. So all of that, I always felt that it was always meant to be. I had to be there for the community in some way or the other.
well, I don't know if diabetes was meant to be, but you were meant to be. Right, because we know that if given the chance, like diabetes, Vambus, we don't want it, but it helps us so much more, and we're able to gift ourselves to community. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so you're like the diabetes mascot almost.
Yes.
R-
Technically, yes.
Technically, you already got the four, November 14th.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's I'm not gonna say it's great, but you're definitely someone that needed to be input in this community to be able to reach and share with people because diabetes is literally like all you know.
Exactly.
And that person who was in the hospital, that young person, you were able to also help them move forward. And I'm telling you, I did a quick dive through your feed, through your Instagram, and I said, she's helping thousands upon thousands of people, and you're helping them lessen this burden that is living with type 1 diabetes. Because people who don't live with it, people who aren't the caregivers of someone that lives with it, they truly have no idea what type 1 diabetes is, what it means to us, and how much it truly travels with us in every aspect of our day, of our life, every second, every moment.
Yeah. Just, the caregivers part, I'm very, I wouldn't say touchy, but that's one area that I'm extremely passionate about. Not just with people living with type 1 diabetes, because I am somebody who is living with it, but caregivers have an extra special space in my heart for the simple fact that I was diagnosed at the age of 4. I was little. I mean, I don't even remember a life before diabetes, honestly. My parents have vicariously lived with the condition for the longest period of time. And in this entire, you know, system, this ecosystem of type 1 diabetes, I know the focus is on the person who has it, but everyone forgets the parents, the caregivers, the siblings who play such an important part in ensuring that you are being taken care of, that you just don't survive, but you also thrive. So, for me, that particular thing is something that I always advocate for. That if you're talking about me as a person living with type 1 diabetes, you also need to keep in consideration my parents and my sibling who have been the actual strength behind me being so empowered. I wouldn't have been me if it wouldn't have been for them. If they wouldn't have seen type 1 diabetes as something which has to live with me, but also not letting it hinder the process of me living my life as I wanted. May it be education, may it be extracurriculars, may it be doing anything that I wanted, may it be traveling, whatever. So I always give them the major credit. I have done just the 20%, they have done the 80%.
Right. Thank you for that moment to gift the people who love you most their flowers. Seriously, because I just had a conversation a few days ago with a mom. I have conversations every day with people like you. Like it seems like thousands of people on, and I had a conversation with a mom who her daughter was diagnosed as a toddler, and she had made a post, and she was just sharing how her daughter is, I think, 4 now, and she was diagnosed at 2, and she was sharing how she does not let her daughter take on any of this burden. Like she
Yeah,
was like when her daughter's sitting down, getting ready to eat and whatnot, because her daughter uses a pump, and she's like, she dials in all the numbers. She keeps track of everything, even hormonal, adrenaline, all of those things, and her daughter knows nothing about it. And I
yeah,
said, that is the best. Like, and at the same time, I'm like, wow, it's all on you, like the mental, the physical, the
yeah,
psychological, all of those things. But as parents, like true parents, they want their children to be at their best, like
yeah.
no matter what. And that's something that your loved ones was able to gift you because you're like literally like you're a psychologist. Like
um,
you could have been a culinary artist. You could have been an architect. And I'm going to reverse to that because I went to school for architecture before I went into the mental health field. I said, when you were saying, like, I wrote it down, I said, wow, like so many similarities. Like, but this is our true calling.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, no parents would like to see their child crying when they are being injected or, pricking them so many times because that's what pumps are not that readily. Pumps are readily available in India, but the cost is a lot. Um, so people try to go for multiple daily injections, tech is costly, so you have to use your regular glucometers. No parents like to prick their children at all. I
Right.
think it's mm, my parents worked as my pancreas, and then they gave the baton to me to work as my own pancreas. So that's what we have been doing, I think.
And you
Um,
can't give it to anyone.
and I can't give it to anyone.
Right.
It stays with me.
It's our burden now.
Yes.
It makes
But
me
I think it needs to be a shared burden. It doesn't feel like a burden because um, when you have a great ecosystem, you have a great support system. It doesn't feel like a burden. You all, I think anyone who's not even living with type 1 diabetes or any chronic condition do have bad days and good days. So do we. Ours are a little worse when it comes to bad days if you're getting a lot of hypoglycemias and hyperglycemias. But I have always looked at it like that it's not a burden that I have to, it's like a very shared thing. When I don't want to do something, I'll ask my parents to do it. Can you count this for me, please?
Deeksha,
I don't want,
I want to take a deep dive into this conversation you're saying
yes,
because I often tell people, I mean, we do deal with burnout when we like when something occurs that we truly weren't expecting, like a cannula coming out and our body's not receiving insulin or a
yeah,
hypoglycemic episode, like we're like, where did that come from? But I always talk to people and I tell them, how I don't deal with a lot of the, I guess, the typical burnout that many people go through, like on a regular daily basis. And I think a big part of that has been because I'm speaking to community, I'm helping people, guiding them, sharing resources, giving them support, and I receive all of that back. So, I mean, as a psychologist, as myself, as a mental health therapist, we cannot go into the full scope of the work that we do if we're
yeah,
not mentally prepared for
absolutely.
it. It has nothing to do with being tough, because that's a word that should be thrown out. It's just being prepared.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah,
100% agree.
right.
I again, what you're just saying, the community has a major, massive role in me not getting a burnout, and also just not the community. I think um, reaching out, that is a safe space. But for me, what I've learned over a period of time is having a very strong support system. Building it over a period of time becomes integral for a lot of people, and I am so sorry if this is offensive to anyone, but for a lot of people, parents or caregivers aren't that support system because they are more compelling towards living life with type 1 diabetes a certain way, so you don't feel understood. So having building that support system, knowing that these are the people who understand, these are the people who care, but they understand the condition as well and what you require at that particular point of time. I've been very privileged that my parents, of course, are a very big part of my support system. I have great friends. I have my best friends. My two of my best friends are type 1 diabetes, are people living with type 1 diabetes. So it's very fun with them. Uh, Two of them are not living with type 1 diabetes. So there's a balance. They know what to do, but they don't understand how it feels to live with type 1 diabetes. And then I have two people who know exactly how to live with type 1 diabetes, how it feels. Um, so we can actually, vibe there. I can vibe with them in other aspects. So you have to figure out over a period of time what exactly do you want in your support system. So if I have to give you pointers of how to build it, they need to understand the condition. You need to feel heard. You need to feel safe. And at no point of time you should feel that you are being judged. And no one should compel you to do a certain thing. I have one very, and these are the people who should understand your boundaries. For example, with one of my best friends, she said something out of concern, which was extremely, it just did not sit well with me. And I told her that, this is one boundary that I need to have with you. This is something that you don't comment on. And it was related to my diabetes only. Since then, she has not spoken about it. She's very careful. So, just people who understand your boundaries is very important, who comprehend them and respect them. So, if you find such three, four people, I don't think you will be able to speak to them about living with a chronic condition and not feel that burden, because I feel when you share, uh, a lot of the weight that you have on your heart, it just gets dissipated. Else, you can always have a therapist. You can talk to Will, you can talk to Deeksha, you can always reach out to us if you need any professional help. But it's always good to have a very solid support system in place, especially when you're living with a chronic condition like ours, which doesn't leave us alone at any point of time.
At any point of time. The true indeed, chronic meaning forever.
Yes,
And that's another thing that
not
people don't
even for
understand.
1 second. Yes.
Right. You were just speaking about something I've been working on for the last year, a one pager to be able to share with uh clinicians, doctors, even emergency care teams, a one pager that shares that when someone is newly diagnosed with a chronic health condition, they should equally be giving the opportunity to seek out mental health care. Well, they shouldn't even have to seek it out because they tell you when you're diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, you have to see an endocrinologist, a
Yeah.
specialist. There
Yeah.
should be a mental health specialist like assigned because this is truly like a mind over body experience. Like you said with your parents, I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell you right now, your parents have a mental fortitude and strength that I'm like, wow. Because you at 4 years old, you didn't see any of that. Your siblings, how many siblings do you have?
I have an elder brother.
So he may have saw a little bit of it.
He saw a lot of it actually. He
Okay.
saw all of it, and he has the same mental fortitude. He parentified. That the on 14th of November he became a parent as well. He was always a parent, but that day he just felt a sense of responsibility over me, which he did not have to take if I wouldn't have been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at all.
Hmm.
But he has been extremely important as a pillar of strength in shaping who I am as a person.
Why aren't we gifted that opportunity to be our best? Why, when people are diagnosed with a chronic health condition, we're it's all about the physical. We know that's the dire need right there, so that a person won't go into just the shock of having it and wanting to stay away from it, not wanting to do the necessary steps to keep themselves well and alive. But the mental health, psychological aspect of that, if that's understood or shared, then you won't, I mean, it will lessen the amount of people who you see that say, forget it, I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to take these injections. I'm not going to, my body, I don't believe what the doctors are saying, those types of things. That resource of information, someone that comes in and speaks to us, to speaks to a newly diagnosed person, the parents, the caregivers of a newly diagnosed person and letting them know, because many people that I've spoken with, Black and brown people, a lot of parents are like, the doctor said this, but when I go home, I'm going to search for this. I'm going to,
Yeah.
and they dig themselves down this rabbit hole that
Yeah.
that's merely impossible to get out of. And it puts like the first few months to first few years of diagnosis is not the best.
True. I think it was never acknowledged. The first course of action that you think of is to save that person from, to go into anything which gets critical, like a more severe state of diabetes ketoacidosis. One thing is how it can mentally impact. And I've always, whenever I get a chance on any forum or platform, I've always said this, that any chronic condition, and especially if I speak in context of type 1 diabetes, it's a capital T trauma. So traumas are of two kinds. There is a small t and there's the capital T trauma. Small t trauma aren't life altering. They are like maybe a small accident or something which has caused the trauma. But capital T trauma is life altering. So your life actually turns 180 degrees. And type 1 diabetes, if you get diagnosed with any chronic condition, it is that, and especially type 1 diabetes, since it is seen that it mostly happens to children or adolescents and now in adults as well. At any age, a trauma is a trauma, regardless. Um, I think the first thing is the need of the hour is to acknowledge it as a trauma and start viewing it as that. That this is life altering. And this does not just impact you physically for the rest of your life, but this alters your mental health as well. And this needs to be taken care of. The one pager, that's an exceptionally great idea. But I feel that two things can work at that point of time. Having a specialist. A lot of people do speak to specialists at that point of time, but the problem is that if that person's not living with it, there is a disconnect. If somebody speaks to you or to me or anyone from the community that, this newly diagnosed child or the parents come and speak to somebody who's not living with the condition, they might be, the person who is trying to counsel them might be empathetic, might have the appropriate knowledge, but even that 0.1% disconnect at that point of time can ruin the entire thing. So having somebody with a lived experience makes a huge difference. That's why we always say that support groups play a massive role here. Peer support groups, peer support advocates, champions, all of these people should be on board, and they should be given at least some very basic amount of knowledge about active listening, if nothing else. Rest of the things people like you and I, because of our professional degrees, can take care of. But at that point of time, you just need somebody to rant to, honestly. You don't have to give them, sermons about, oh, this is how your life is going to be, it's all going to be great, and it's all flowery after this, because it's not. But you just need somebody that you can cry to and rant to, and that somebody and the person sitting in front of you understands what you're going through because they have lived through that as well. So I think that's where peer support groups, us as advocates and professionals do come in place. And just giving them one pager, trust me, will, and I'm not negating your idea at all, I wouldn't read it. I'm not in a state of mind to read it at all. I'm already having, 30,000 things that the doctor is going to teach me. Oh, this is how you take insulin. This is the injection technique. This is how you count carbs. This is the ICR. This is your ISF. And you're like, I hated maths. Now I have to do all of this and also prick myself. Well, wow. Don't want to do it.
Right. See, that one pager whole idea. But see, that wasn't for the patient.
I love the idea.
That was for the medical team.
I love that idea. The medical team needs to be taught.
Yeah.
Simple thing. HCPs need to be, and with all due respect to my doctors and all the doctors in the world who are doing exceptional work in our field, they need to be sat down and told that at any point of time, you feel that this person, the one pager, can have all the symptoms of burnout or distress that you feel within a person who already is living with it, or for caregivers, it can be three one pagers for different categories, and even for people who are newly diagnosed. And then we as professionals can come and you can send them to us. We are not going to give them advice on medication. That's
Right.
not our job. But this part we can take care of, and that is why that was the entire idea of starting my own foundation, Alinea. That I don't want to have another medical setup. I don't want to have another peer support group. I want to have a plug-in that can work with different organizations because you already have communities built in. I would like to come in, and if you see that these are the burnout and distress stages that this particular person or your particular community member is going through, send them to us. We'll try to help them in whatever mental capacity we can, and they will stay with your community. We are not going to, poach people or anything. And
Right.
the entire community is one big family anyway. So working as a plugin was always the idea. And that's where the one pager idea is something that both of us can work on for sure.
Right. That plug-in idea that you're stating, you being the plug, basically.
Yeah,
We being the plug.
absolutely.
Right. Because I know that personally, like when we have certain events here, I may be called upon to be there, like say a few years ago, like the JDRF would have like
Yeah,
events at like different baseball games, and I would go
yeah,
there and they would want me to like approach newly diagnosed families because many of them are dealing with this traumatic experience of this new diagnosis and just don't know where to go with it. And I would just approach them and just have a one-on-one conversation while at a baseball game, just letting them know like how I've been able to care for myself, and my parents have also for the last 22 plus years, and that today I am at my best, like really, and like parents were so appreciative of just that 5 minute conversation because
exactly.
it's a conversation that was missed upon that diagnosis.
Absolutely. It makes that those 5 minutes, what you're saying is so right, that that 5 minutes changes everything for you. From your diagnosis till the time you don't feel like you start feeling like yourself. Just talking to somebody who is living with it. Um, it's just it changes the trajectory of how the rest of your journey with type 1 diabetes is going to look like. And people like you will are very important to the community. What
People
you're doing
like
with
you, Deeksha, we're here to give you flowers. This is your
I,
platform today, where
oh
you
no, seriously.
look. Thank you.
I think each one of us are doing God's work, honestly, and this is required.
Right. So it's about us not only lessening the burden, but just being able to like gift opportunity
Absolutely.
because once someone meets someone like us, just think of a newly diagnosed child, meet
Yeah.
someone like you. They may be 4 years old, maybe 10 years old, but you're a model for them. Like really, like a role model. You're a peer model for their parents, letting them know that they see the smile on your face while you're injecting insulin, while you're telling them about all of the burden that you go through, but you're still smiling.
Yeah.
Like, because many people on the outside hear diabetes, they got diagnosed with diabetes. Oh no, like, oh no, but we know that since 1922, it has changed a lot and it continues to change. Um, really, like 1929 is a number that always sticks to my mind. 1929. I always tell people 7 years after the first person in Northern America was given insulin,
Yeah.
uh, it took 7 years until someone in India was given insulin.
Yeah.
And when you think of that time lapse, like it's crazy, really, when you think of it,
It,
because of the global population of India, the
yeah.
resources that were there and readily available then. And that's primarily the lack, like just because of the color of your skin, really. Like it took upwards of 10 years before the first person of color here in the US was given insulin. And that's to no fault of our own.
Exactly.
But today, we know that we will not allow anyone to push forward with an agenda without including us.
Absolutely.
That includes the insulin manufacturers, the medical health companies, the insurance companies,
Yep.
all of those things, because we know that they're not equally represented across the spectrum
Yep.
when we all need insulin to live.
Absolutely.
I'm huge into research and
Mm.
science and research history as well. Um, in in India, are y'all shared the diagnosis or when what's her name Kumudini? Are y'all shared information about her when she was given insulin in 1929?
Not at all.
Okay. So
Yep.
from my research, I think in like 2019, 2020, like I did a deep dive into the history of insulin and trying to find out when the first person of color was given insulin. And she
Yeah.
was the person that kept on popping up. And like it was limited in the information. It just
Yeah.
said that she was 12 and that more than likely she passed early on. I remember it said she was married at 11 years old. So it also made me think about like how pure insulin was then. And I know today that globally, India has the highest number of people with type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and insulin dependence in general.
Yes.
And being that, I mean, how is it that India does not align its wellness, like you align its wellness with that of the people, the citizens of its nation?
The healthcare system here, Will, is extremely burdened. So the place where I was diagnosed, and before I dive into that, there's a dearth of experts. Uh, my statistics can be here and there, but apparently there are 5,000 endocrinologists and diabetologists in India
Wow.
against the population that we have. And I'm just wondering how many people can they even intake? I remember when I was working in the hospital that I was diagnosed in. I was interning there. I remember the head of the department of endocrinology department um, had 10 patients, and he was talking to them simultaneously. And within 5 minutes, he had to let all of these people out and let the next lot in. At no point of time am I criticizing, because that takes a lot of experience and a lot of understanding of how to run such big hospitals, especially government settings. But I was looking at the quality of care which is compromised because doctors are so burdened with the amount of patients they are given. And we have two facilities. We have private facilities and we have public facilities in India. Public facilities are way cheaper, but has the longest queue system that you can think of. So maybe you have to turn up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and your turn will come at maybe 2 p.m. in the afternoon. But the private clinics are way expensive, at least 10 to 15 times more expensive, and not everyone can afford it. So, just to summarize all of this, it is the fact that healthcare system is extremely burdened in India, and that is why there is a misalignment. You will find the best doctors in the government setting as well as the private settings, but the discrepancy of quality of care just because of affordability, that's where the entire thing just, starts crumbling down for us. And from the glucometer strips to insulin to needles, everything, even technology for that matter of fact, pumps, the consumables of pumps, everything is out of pocket expenditure. Nothing is covered under insurance for us. So monthly for a person, it would be around 7 to 8 or maybe 10,000 rupees, Indian rupees, which comes out of the pocket. And just imagine if that person is just earning 20,000 rupees and half of it just goes into, keeping one child alive or themselves alive. There's nothing that they can do if they have a family. So that is a major, major issue. But on the brighter side, my fellow advocates in the diabetes community here in India, we have been really pushing to ensure that at least insulin and the consumables are free from government side to us, that it should be made free of cost.
It should be. I was just speaking with someone yesterday. I think I have 7 people from India lined up to be on the podcast in the coming 2 months. And it wasn't something like I sought at all. I reached out to a few people, but then more people started coming to me and they're like, we have this push.
Yeah,
And I said this push needs to be shared globally.
absolutely.
Because we should be supporting one another, um, until there is a global source
Yep.
for people living with chronic health conditions, particularly diabetes in general. Like, it should not be if I'm here in the US, but if let's say I travel to Uganda, where there's literally only 3 endocrinologists.
Yeah.
There's They're limited to 2 test strips per day. There's
Yeah.
no technology. Excuse me. Then if I travel to India, where here in the US, on average you spend probably about 30 to 45 minutes with your endocrinologist. If I'm traveling to India because of the population of people living with diabetes and the minimal amount of endocrinologists, that 5,000, it sounds big, but it's not. When you consider
Not
the amount of people living with diabetes,
exactly.
that one-on-one time is, like you said, you may show up 5 a.m. in the morning and may not be seen till 2 p.m. The time you're spending with your endocrinologist or your educator may be limited to 5 minutes or so.
Less than that.
Yeah, and that's more so just okay, this is what you're doing. You need to change this. Here's your scripts.
Yeah.
Like,
It's just prescription and go.
right. And here in the US, like government insurance, what we would consider like Medicaid here in the US, as opposed to private insurance, um, you still get the same care,
Yeah.
whether you're low income or you're the richest person, you still get the same technology, the same, like, and it's made affordable if you have that insurance.
Yeah.
Like, if you have government insurance, let's say Medicaid, most people pay nothing at all for their insulin pumps, for their insulin, for their CGMs, FGMs,
Yeah.
where you're telling me, and many other people are telling me in India,
Everything's
like,
out of pocket. Everything. From your annual test, your quarterly test, everything is out of pocket. And Will, I just want to add something here. It's not that the doctors don't want to spend time with you. They,
right,
of course, like to. The point is that there's an entire queue of 100, 200 people standing already. So they just want to ensure that at least everyone has access to a doctor. So it's not on them also. It's just that the healthcare system is just so overburdened that they don't get to spend the time that should ideally be spent with somebody living with a chronic condition. Um, and again, the number of people who already have, the numbers in the T1D index, we always say that they feel very conservative to us. Like 9 million people living with type 1 diabetes, it can't be possible because most of the cases are not reported. Most of the people try to hide it as much as they can. I mean, we used to do, and we still do meetups here in my state, and I remember calling people personally and they telling me that, the only reason we don't want to come is that we don't want anyone to know that we
Mm.
have type 1 diabetes. So they don't go to doctors because of that. They just keep it to themselves, which leads to other complications ultimately. And in the T1D index itself, it says I think 10 million or 11 million people are missing because of misdiagnosis, because they don't have access to experts, because they don't have access to the medication that's required, because of not having access to consumables. So people who should have been alive are not alive because they are not getting the kind of care they should have been getting because of XYZ reason, especially stigma. Which is also, which comes in the psychosocial factors, but there is also an entire population which is getting not the best quality care that they should get because they're living with a chronic condition. So it's just, there is a misalignment which needs to be done. And till the time government doesn't enter this space, they don't start doing things, it won't be aligned. So our focus, at least, for 2025, that is my focus, that I really need to get into policy deep till my knees so that we can push governments, because India's already doing really good work in certain states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, now Dehradun. All of these already have governments on board giving free insulin and consumables to people living with type 1 diabetes. We want that at least in, in this coming year, we are able to push maximum states to do the same for us, including mine, which is Punjab, where I'm staying. Along with that, we also want that, so we pay taxes on the medicine, on insulin, and on technology and consumables as well. So we pay 18% tax on CGMs, which shouldn't be there at all because it's not an item of luxury, it is a necessity. So our entire point right now is that we started, I think, mid-December, not mid-December, a little earlier than Christmas. We started this entire petition, and this is a humble request to whosoever is watching or listening to this podcast to sign that petition. I'll just share the link to
Could you
you
repeat?
that.
Could you repeat that? Like, this is your platform. Let them know.
Yes,
Talk to the
absolutely.
people.
So we do have taxes imposed on our CGM. So we pay 18% tax on while we purchase a CGM, which shouldn't be there because CGM is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It's a piece of device that we can put on a child because they get very uncomfortable with pricking so many times and maybe their sugar levels are all over the place. For me, it is important because I have been living with it for such a long time, and for me, time and range is important. Or for any newly diagnosed person, for everyone living with type 1 diabetes. Why are we paying extra taxes for that? So, what we have started along with other type 1 diabetes advocates is that we started a petition so that so we have a budget session in March here in India, and we want to send a representation to government which says that there should be the tax should be removed from we should not be paying any tax while we are purchasing CGMs or insulin or any consumables which we require to manage our diabetes. So I can share the link of the petition, and it would be great for people who are listening to your podcast if they can share it as widely as possible, and we can just we can just show the numbers to the government, and at least for Indian viewers, that please sign it so that we can send the maximum representation, put pressure on the government to take a call, to take an action on this, and maybe we are able to reform something in 2025. That is the entire agenda for 2025 this time, for I think all the advocates in India, to make policy level changes, because till the time government doesn't jump in, we are limited to just a certain number of people. We want to help as many as possible.
Thank you for that. I'm trying to remember who. So I've shared this link. I run a group aligned with the podcast, Chronically Woke Podcast, people of color, and it's people around the world. And I've shared the link in the group as recently as this past week. And I remember someone asking me privately, why should we all take part in this? Well, sir, someone who's in the group shared someone who's not in the group anymore asking. They asked them, why is he sharing this information? Because they started talking about the taxes and how it doesn't represent it doesn't represent as a whole what people are putting into. And I tried to let them know this is a global thing. This isn't just here in the US. Like, this is in India, where we have the most amount of people living with diabetes in the world. And we need a push. We need a push. We need to place this in the forefront of the media, both privately and publicly, more so publicly, because when the public sees it, and if let's say, if I have a following of, let's say, 14,000 people, if even 10% of that group sees that and they sign it, it will help lessen this burden. We need this public push, because we are truly a family, because no one else knows the things that we go through, the obstacles, the different transitions from technology and the advancements in insulin, all of those things. This burden truly needs to be lessened. And it's hard being like, we're people living with this, and we are the ones having to push this at the same time. Like, we need more people on the outside. We're inside the fishbowl. We're inside the fishbowl. We need the people that are just looking from the outside to somehow just, they don't even gotta understand. Just see it.
Exactly.
Just see it. Read that attention-getting headliner on how there are babies really diagnosed, and this will make their lives so much better.
Absolutely.
Because I know if I see that, it's going to make me want to do something.
I'm just going to share a very small instance. I have been working with a child lately. Comes from a very, very underprivileged background. Stays in the smallest room with two of his other siblings and parents. And he got diagnosed 5 years back, almost 5 years back. At the age of 4, he is 7 now. Not 5 years back, 3 years back, and he's 7 now. He's 7 plus, and his growth is stunted because no one taught him or his parents how to manage it. The organization his parents are a part of are sponsoring sensors for him, and they are not even earning so a sensor costs 5,500 Indian rupees here in India. and the cost is increasing. Um, the parents don't even earn that much, as far as I know. The organization is putting on him, but then there is a dependency. And I'm just, even the people from that particular organization, and I were in talks, and we were like, till how long can this dependency be there? So just cutting down 18% of those taxes can make it affordable to so many people. I think all of us, even if you're earning real well here in India, you hesitate to purchase a sensor which is so costly, although it is life changing. Tech changes the entire way your management looks like. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that is why it is so important that we take a call as a global family and not just, as individual countries, so that we help everyone have the same access to technology and to medication, that anyone, it needs to be uniform in the entire world. I know that sounds very utopian, but I think if we push, we will be able to um, do it as well. Because as far as I always give this example that people living with HIV were able to do it, why not us?
Why
Just
not
because,
us?
yeah, just because they collectively took it in their hands. We want this. We want our medication. We want it free of cost. We don't care how we get it, but everyone in the world needs an access to it. At least most of the countries are providing the medications free of cost. Why not diabetes then? When the world, half of the world is impacted by it. I always ask people that, do you know anyone living with diabetes? Trust me, everyone will say yes. Somebody from the neighborhood, in my own family, somebody is impacted by diabetes. So why aren't we doing and taking the charge of it and ensuring that everyone gets the medication that they require to thrive?
Right. So, for context, for people in the US who are watching or listening to this, 5,500 rupees is the equivalent of between 64, 65 American dollars. Um, and when you say like a family that basically that is low income
Yeah.
has to pay 64 to $65 for CGM, or probably just a FGM, a flash glucose monitor.
A flash glucose monitor, is that
Uh,
what we get? We don't get CGMs in
right.
India.
Right. So, for that, just a little more context to that. As I said, if you have Medicaid here in the US, you do not have to pay a tax on your medical supplier or medical devices, technology. You can get a 3 month supply of no cost. The max payout typically is maybe $3. Like, it makes It makes sense, everyone. It makes sense for Deeksha, for the advocates, for the people living with diabetes in India and across the world. It makes sense for us all to come together to lessen this burden for this family and the millions of other families across the globe. Like, we have to do better. We have to make it make more sense. We have to come together as a community to rid the media of its misconceptions of what it is living with diabetes. We have to come together to share with these political giants, these manufacturers, everyone that touches the cost and the price of what it takes for us to live before it even reaches the pharmaceutical companies, before it reaches the healthcare providers. Because I did take a note here, write a note here, that our healthcare providers, our healthcare teams, for the most part, they do everything that they can, not only do they continue the education, but they just try to touch each individual, each family in the limited time, the limited space capacity that they have. And if it
Yeah,
wasn't for them and their continued growth and their continued education, their continued learning, we wouldn't be here today, because that was Dr. Frederick Banting over a
absolutely.
hundred years ago.
Yes,
We must all take a part of that with us as we move forward in lessening this burden that is living with this chronic health condition that we both live with, that is type 1 diabetes.
absolutely.
Do you know or have a sense of why is the cost of insulin continuously rising in India?
Um, but I look at that from a perspective, it's the need people play with. I think farmers know that this is the biggest market that they have globally. And because it's an out-of-pocket expenditure, and the insurance companies don't have a lot of say in it, they are not very reluctant in increasing the prices. And there's a global monopoly anyway when it comes to insulin. There are only certain manufacturers who, produce, who make insulin. So with India, they find a bigger market with HCPs, with patients and everything, and they are not very reluctant in increasing the prices. And I know in India, in last 10 years, there has been a maximum hike across globe. I think there has been 104% hike in the prices of insulin. We are So yeah, it's all about the market, being the biggest market.
Right. Because we know that if someone is deprived of their insulin, that breeds other complications.
Absolutely.
Like here in the US, let's say I think it's upwards of 80% of people who are on kidney dialysis are people living with diabetes of some form. Um,
Yeah.
but that's mainly because of the lack of insulin that they received.
Yeah.
So but the patients who are on dialysis here, they automatically receive government assistance like Medicare, Medicaid, and they qualify for Social Security disability income that covers all of that.
Yeah.
Like, it would be so much more cost efficient if they first attacked the need for insulin.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
the government and the policies, like they were like, okay, we're going to make sure that everyone can receive insulin first.
Yeah.
And
My fellow advocate Prashant Mani, he always, this is one thing that he constantly tells us whenever we go and speak to the government, is that tell the government that if you are providing free insulin, you are turning people living with type 1 diabetes into assets than them being liabilities. And that's something that I think that is something where us as advocates have to be more vocal and more pressurizing about that. This is why we are asking for insulin so consistently, at least for free insulin and consumables for everyone living with type 1 diabetes. And also the fact that when pharma deals with government directly, the efficiency is absolutely different. The rates that are quoted are very different. So if it is procured from the government and coming to us, it would be way easier. Or maybe if not, if you don't want to give it to everyone for free, but at least take off the taxes. Maybe give it on special prices, on prices. decrease prices. But all of these policy changes need to happen now. It is the need of the hour. And not just that, I think I'm also speaking for people living with type 2 diabetes, although I do not, I know people living with type 2 diabetes that don't have any in my family. But even for their medication, it needs to be at least given on a decreased price. Because a lot of people living with type 1 diabetes also develop double diabetes, and they might be put on medication which is required for type 2 as well, for the resistance bit of
Mhm.
it. So I think just ensuring that everyone with diabetes is catered to is very important. It is the need of the hour, because what you're saying is right. Any type of diabetes can cause complications because it's uncontrolled. And with type 1, the complications happen but way later. With type 2, the fact is that there is, number one, lesser care that is taken by the person who is living with it. For us, it is a mandate now. Like, we know it's autopilot. It's a muscle memory that we have to take insulin. For them, they take it very lightly, which ultimately turns them into liability when I look at it from a very government's perspective. So just binding that into the fact that the government need to understand that if you do not want to you want to ensure that people don't turn into liabilities, you need to take the action beforehand, that is providing them with the medication that doesn't turn them into liabilities, and ensure that they are assets for their states and the entire country, for that matter of fact.
Right. We are assets.
We are
We
assets.
we we are.
Absolutely.
Um, as we do wind down this conversation, is there anything that we have not covered that you would like to cover?
Um, I just want to summarize by saying that I know all of us do take care of our physical health, but please do consider taking mental health into, you know, in being a part of your entire diabetes management system as well. At any point of time, you feel that you are not able to manage this, you don't want to do diabetes, if I have to put it as simply as possible, just reach out to somebody who can be your safe space. Reach out to any of the community members. They might be able to guide you to one of us. And at any point of time you feel like reaching out, you can always DM on Instagram. And we are really hoping that the entire world supports us with our, not our fight, but to collaborate with the government to push them to a point where they understand why we are asking for free access to insulin and the tech that which is a necessity for us and not something that we can live without. So, but and lastly, Will, thank you so much for having me. I mean, this has been a great platform for me to just, speak my mind and also speak about the efforts of my fellow advocates in India who are doing some exceptional work when it comes to policy.
Right. And I
And
can't wait to be able to have those conversations with them and continue this because can sense it in everyone that you truly are passionate about what you do and that you will make this change occur. Um, and I must ask, is there any advice you would like to give to a newly diagnosed person or the parents of a newly diagnosed person living with type 1 diabetes?
yes, it was going to be hell of a roller coaster ride, but it's not a bad life with diabetes at all. Everything is manageable. Learn about diabetes. Don't just go on to multiple sites and take all the information. Don't try to absorb all the information, and speak to somebody, maybe a community leader, a champion, a type 1 diabetes advocate who can actually tell you how it feels and guide you through that little phase of darkness. But there's always light at the end of this tunnel, and there's this entire big garden and an entire new family that you'll find support in when it comes to type 1 diabetes. So worry little, learn more.
And Deeksha, I tell people this often. Like I would consider I'm an emotional being. Like I'm okay with that. I'm a man. I'm okay with that. But also I'm an emotional thug because at the same time I'm ready to fight for whatever. And throughout this heartfelt and warming conversation, I felt it in here so many times because love feels love. Like seriously, and I know how much you love your people, you love your community. I equally love all of us. And I must ask you this final question. I've imagined my life without diabetes. I have. I've imagined a world free of diabetes. Seriously. And with the advancements in technology and science and research, we do see a future without diabetes. Um, on the day, Deeksha, on the day a cure is here,
Yeah.
everyone you know is free of diabetes or able to become free of diabetes. On that day, you are cured. What do you do?
I'm gonna hit the gym without getting anxious about the fact that I might get a hypo in between my workout, and then go and have a box of donuts without having to think that I have to bolus for this. So
And,
yeah, that's how my day is going to look like.
and I'm going to take note of that because on the day a cure is readily available in Deeksha, you've been cured, I'm going to make sure I gift you a box of donuts
That would
because
be,
you are deserving of it.
I'm sure. Um, and I can't wait to work on that one pager with you. So I'm going to bug you on that. I am going to hold you accountable for
Yes.
that. We have already started working on it. And I have a question for you before we end. What would you do the day you are cured?
On the day I am cured, Deeksha, the first time I was asked this, tears came down my face, and I would just probably just fall to my knees and just thank God because I'm not only thinking of myself, I'm thinking
So
about everyone. I promise you, I love all of us equally. And on that day, I'm just going to just thank God for real because we we have God with us. You spoke about it openly in the beginning of this conversation, and we know that we must always lean on an higher power for that belief, for that faith. And so I would just thank and honor God for that.
that's just beautiful, Will.
And on that note, Deeksha Dev, my sister, thank you for joining me on the Chronically Well
So much
podcast,
for Thank
where
you so
we
much for having me.
where we have real conversations with community that need to be heard. And Deeksha, you are definitely someone that needs to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.